The soft hum of conversations filled the cabin as Naomi Bennett stepped into the first-class section, smoothly rolling her carry-on behind her. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, she exuded quiet confidence. To most, she was just another passenger settling in for a comfortable flight. But Naomi knew better. She had seen the subtle, lingering looks before, the ones that silently questioned whether she truly belonged in this space. She placed her bag in the overhead compartment with ease, every movement efficient and composed. Years of experience had made flying second nature to her. This wasn't her first trip from Los Angeles to New York. But this time, she wasn't in the cockpit. Today, she was simply a passenger, taking a much-needed break before her next assignment. As soon as she settled into her seat, she sensed it, the scrutiny. A flight attendant with sharp features and icy blonde hair stood near the galley, whispering something to a colleague. The knowing smirks they exchanged were impossible to miss. Naomi remained calm, used to this kind of behavior. She had no time for people who jumped to conclusions based on appearances. Moments later, the blonde woman approached. Her name tag read Jennifer. "Ma'am, I believe you might be in the wrong seat," Jennifer said, her tone smooth but with an unmistakable edge of condescension. Naomi turned slowly to meet her gaze. "Excuse me." Jennifer gestured toward the seat with a stiff smile. "This is first class." Naomi held her ground, her expression unreadable. Without a word, she reached into her bag, pulled out her boarding pass, and handed it over with deliberate precision. "Seat 2C," she stated simply. Jennifer's smile faltered for a fraction of a second as she glanced at the ticket. A flicker of surprise crossed her face before she quickly masked it with another overly polite expression. "My mistake," she muttered, handing back the ticket. But as she walked away, Naomi didn't miss the way she exchanged glances with another flight attendant, a younger brunette who stifled a quiet chuckle. Naomi sighed through her nose and turned her attention to the window. No matter how many ceilings she shattered, how much success she achieved, there were always people like Jennifer who assumed less of her before knowing anything about her. A few rows ahead, a middle-aged businessman in a charcoal suit subtly glanced her way. Naomi could see the silent curiosity in his expression, the unspoken question. How could she afford to be here? She had no interest in answering it. Soon after, another flight attendant, a woman named Erica according to her name tag, made her way down the aisle with a tray of welcome drinks. Champagne and orange juice gleamed under the soft cabin lights. Naomi reached for a glass of champagne, but Erica hesitated, pulling the tray back slightly. "If you'd prefer, I can bring you something from economy," she offered with exaggerated politeness. "We have a wider selection of juices and sodas there." For a moment, Naomi didn't move. Her fingers hovered midair before she slowly met Erica's eyes. "This is fine," she said evenly, taking the champagne and setting it down on her tray table without another word. Erica hesitated, as if debating whether to say something else, but ultimately walked away. Nearby, an older couple chuckled, whispering between themselves before casting brief glances in Naomi's direction. It wasn't the first time she had been the subject of quiet conversations, nor would it be the last. Naomi had spent a lifetime navigating these moments. The careful exclusion, the microaggressions disguised as politeness, the weight of assumptions pressing against her every move. She could have spoken up, could have put them all in their place with a single sentence. But she chose silence. For now. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard Flight 369, direct service to New York. We're expecting a smooth flight today, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey." Naomi exhaled quietly as the engines rumbled to life. The irony wasn't lost on her. She closed her eyes, listening to the familiar rhythm of the aircraft, her world, her domain. It was strange being here as a passenger, where assumptions outweighed her expertise. As the flight attendants moved through the cabin, serving meals, Jennifer deliberately delivered Naomi's tray last, setting it down with just a little too much force. The silverware clattered against the plate, but Naomi didn't react. She had seen worse. A woman across the aisle, probably in her late 50s, leaned in slightly, curiosity evident on her face. "So, you're really a pilot?" she asked, as though the idea was too foreign to believe. Naomi turned to her with a measured look. "Yes." The woman gave a small, hesitant laugh, waiting for Naomi to offer more. When she didn't, the woman's expression shifted slightly. "Well, that's unexpected," she said, swirling the ice in her drink. "I don't think I've ever met a female pilot before. Especially not." She stopped herself, offering an awkward smile instead. "You must be very rare." Naomi tilted her head slightly, holding the woman's gaze. "I suppose I am." The woman gave a small nod, as if that answer was enough for now, though Naomi could feel her eyes lingering. As the flight continued, turbulence suddenly rocked the cabin. It started with a light tremor, the kind that barely caused a ripple in drinks. A few passengers tensed, but carried on as usual. Jennifer's voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing minor turbulence. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." Naomi barely moved, her senses attuned to every shift in the aircraft's movement. Years in the cockpit had trained her to recognize turbulence patterns. Then came a second jolt, harder this time. The plane dipped slightly before correcting itself. A few gasps filled the cabin. The older couple across the aisle gripped their armrests. The businessman in the suit adjusted his tie, his jaw tight. Then it happened. A third jolt, sharper, more aggressive. The aircraft shuddered violently. Naomi's fingers instinctively tightened around the armrest. This wasn't standard turbulence. Something was wrong. The overhead chime rang out, followed by a tense voice over the intercom. But it wasn't the captain. It was the first officer. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing an unexpected issue. The flight crew is currently assessing the situation. Please remain seated." Naomi's brows furrowed. She didn't like the sound of that. Then, the plane lurched. A stomach-churning drop sent a wave of gasps and shrieks through the cabin. Naomi immediately tightened her seatbelt. But something was off. The oxygen masks didn't deploy. The flight crew had gone silent. And Naomi, who had spent years in the cockpit, knew this wasn't just turbulence. It was something much worse. And as she braced herself, she had a sinking feeling that the people who had doubted her mere moments ago were about to learn exactly who she was, and why they had just made the worst mistake of their lives. As the aircraft trembled once more, the fear in the cabin became palpable. Flight attendants who had moments ago exchanged smirks now clutched the seats for balance, their practiced composure cracking. The businessman in the suit, the whispering couple, even Jennifer, every skeptical glance, every dismissive smirk had vanished, replaced by wide-eyed panic. Naomi unbuckled her seatbelt with precision, rising smoothly despite the unstable aircraft. Her voice cut through the tension, calm and authoritative. "I need access to the cockpit." Jennifer hesitated, but Naomi wasn't just a passenger. She was the only one who knew what to do. Lisa swallowed. "You're really a pilot?" Naomi met her gaze. "Let me save this plane." A pause, then a nod. As Naomi stepped toward the cockpit, the doubt in the cabin shifted to hope. When the door opened, one truth was clear. Naomi Bennett wasn't just in the right place. She was the only one who could bring them home.